Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be looking at one bold prediction for each NFL team this offseason. It's an article I read by ESPN, and I thought I'd just, give my thoughts and analysis on it, see what you guys have to think. Before we get started, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. That would help my channel grow. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the video, and let's dive right into it. This is basically, I was reading this article, bold NFL offseason predictions for all 32 teams, and I just wanted to give my reaction to this article. I thought it was a pretty interesting article, so let's just dive right in here. First team is going to be the Buffalo Bills, and the bold prediction is that they will not re-sign Matt Milano. This is interesting, okay? Buffalo Bills, obviously a team that is in playoff contention, Super Bowl contending team. Matt Milano is a huge part of their defense, so I don't think this is going to be the case. I think that they need Matt Milano to, be really successful on that defense side of the football. Him and Tremaine Edmonds are one of the better defensive talents in the NFL at the linebacker position. Them combined is really what allowed this Buffalo Bills defense to be really successful for the last few weeks of last season. So I think that the Bills will re-sign Matt Milano. Obviously, he's going to be cost somewhere in between the 8 to 12 million mark. He's going to be expensive, but I think he's worth it. He's a huge part of that Buffalo defense, and I just think that they're going to have him if they want to have any defensive success moving forward. The next team is going to be my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins here, and the Dolphins' bold prediction here is they're going to reunite the Alabama trio of Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, and Tua Tagovailoa. For me, this is what I hope happens. Okay, I hope that Devontae Smith will go at number 3 to the Dolphins, and I hope that Najee Harris will go at number 18 to the Dolphins. For me, it makes perfect sense. It just makes a lot of sense, and I think that it should happen if the Dolphins want to really improve this offense. The defense was really good last year. Yes, they need to add another edge rusher, probably another linebacker. But overall, the offense is really something that needs to be added to and improved. And I think that Najee Harris and Devontae Smith are perfect for this Dolphins offense. The next team is the New England Patriots. So Jimmy Garroppolo will be the Patriots quarterback in 2021. To be honest, I think that this would be perfect for the Patriots. Obviously, Garroppolo was the Patriots quarterback a few years ago. He was traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick. And I mean, he was really good in New England for those few games where Brady was suspended. He was good, obviously, with the 49ers. He led them to a Super Bowl before. So I think Garroppolo in the New England system would be a perfect fit. However, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if the 49ers are really going to want to move on from Garroppolo. Obviously, this season was not his best season, had injuries, struggled with injuries on the entire team, really, and could not get going. So I don't really know if the 49ers are going to give him up, but definitely Jimmy Garoppolo to New England is something that I think is a great fit for both Garoppolo and New England, and I think it's something that should happen and something the Patriots should definitely look into. Now let's move on to the New York Jets. So the Jets will trade quarterback Sam Darnold to the 49ers for second and third round picks. So here's the thing. I think the Jets might, end up staying with Darnold. That's definitely a possibility. But if they don't go and, decide to stay with Darnold, then they're definitely going to need to go out and trade him. I don't think that there's really any reason to. Maybe you keep him on the roster, but you probably trade him because he's still on his rookie deal. You could probably get some decent capital for him. And, second and third round pick, I like that. However, I don't think the 49ers are a team to go out and get Darnold. For me, the team that would really make sense would be the Colts. So I think that the Jets trading Sam Darnold is definitely in the realm of possibility. It's something that definitely could happen. But I just don't think the 49ers, I think everyone's talking about how the 49ers need to go out and get a quarterback. Garoppolo isn't the answer there. But I still think Garoppolo deserves another year there in San Francisco. And with that said, I just think that maybe the Colts would be a better landing spot than the 49ers for Sam Darnold moving forward. Baltimore Ravens. Okay, now the Ravens will sign Joe Thuney, one of the top guards in free agency. So Joe Thuney, obviously this Ravens offensive line is something that probably needs to be a little bit worked on. They obviously lost Marshall Yanda last offseason, who ended up retiring, and they definitely need another guard to really help this offensive line. However, I don't know if they go out and sign Joe Thuney. They have bigger options. They have bigger needs on the offense and defense side of the football. They've got a lot of free agents on that defensive side of the football. Guys like Matt Judon, I think, is a free agent, but also the wide receiver position is a massive need. As you can see here, Allen Robinson is a guy that would be a bigger splash landing for the Ravens. And I think that they're going to try and go spend that $10 to $12, $15 million range kind of money on a receiver rather than a guard, because they really need a receiver to add another dimension to this offense. And with where they're at drafting, I just don't think that they're going to be able to get one of those receivers that's going to be a huge impact player. So maybe going out and spending some money on a receiver in the offseason is more likely than spending some money on one of the top guards in free agency. The next one is the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is one that is kind of interesting. Cornerback William Jackson III gets a massive contract, and defensive end Carl Lawson walks. Carl Lawson was not great last year. He was pretty good. He was good for the Bengals. He had 5.5 sacks. He was a big part of the run defense, and he was a big part of that defense. William Jackson, though, had a good season. I mean, good corner. To be honest, I think Jackson probably will get a contract. Carr Lawson, depends how much he wants. I don't think the Bengals should spend more than $10 million on him. They should be somewhere in the $8 to $10 million range. If he wants more than that, I think they let him walk. But with that said, I think William Jackson definitely deserving of another contract. Carr Lawson definitely worth some money. But I just don't think he's worth the $12 million that he might want. As we see, I mean, there's been guys, and I'm just talking other defensive ends, edge outside linebackers that are similar to Carl Lawson in the fact, like guys like, for example, Shaq Lawson, a guy who is making $10 million a year, right? Who probably shouldn't be making $10 million a year. I'd say Carl Lawson's probably better than Shaq Lawson, but he's another guy that probably is going to ask for $10 to $12 million. Probably doesn't deserve that kind of money. Probably deserves more around $7 to $8 million. But with that said, I think William Jackson definitely should get another contract. Definitely one of the better corners for the Bengals there, and he's definitely a big part of that defense. For the Browns will extend quarterback Baker Mayfield, making him one of the NFL's highest paid players. This is a no-brainer for me. Baker Mayfield definitely is deserving of another contract. I mean, took the Browns to the playoffs, got them to the AFC divisional round where they almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, no-brainer for me. Baker Mayfield definitely needs another contract. The only concern is this going to be another Jared Goff situation? Is this going to be another Carson Wentz situation? I could definitely see that. So that's something that you should look out for in the next few years. But I think the Cleveland Browns should definitely go out and re-sign Baker Mayfield to an extension. The next one is that the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger and Maurkice Pouncey, will be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021. For me, absolutely. I don't think this is a bold prediction whatsoever. I think this is something that needs to happen. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those teams that are kind of on the borderline of a playoff spot. They're on the borderline of being a Super Bowl contender, and I think Roethlisberger and Maurkice Pouncey are definite must-have guys for this Steelers team to have any shot at making the Super Bowl or having a deep playoff run. The defense is where it's at for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. There are some guys on that defense that are going to be free agents, but if they are able to keep those guys back and they're able to maybe lose a few guys on offense, but still keep Ben Roethlisberger and Maurkice Pouncey, that's the core of their team, and they'll have another shot at going back to the playoffs. I think that's what the Steelers should do instead of going out just tearing down the roster and rebuilding, because that defense is so good. It's one of the best defenses in the NFL. You have to have some weapons and some weaponry on offense to try and get that team into the playoffs. The next one that I want to look at is the Texans will not trade quarterback Deshaun Watson. I don't think this is a bold take. I know Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be in Houston, but you simply don't trade the best quarterback in the NFL, or a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Deshaun Watson is definitely in that conversation. So for me, it's a no-brainer for the Texans not to trade Deshaun Watson. I don't think they will trade Deshaun Watson. It doesn't make sense for them. Obviously, he has the leverage in the situation. He could hold out, do something like that. But nonetheless, the Houston Texans would be idiots to go out and trade Deshaun Watson. The next thing we're going to look at is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts will trade up from the number 21 spot to select their quarterback of the future. This is if they don't land Philly's Carson Wentz or the Jets' Sam Darnold, as you can see here. I don't know. Number 21 spot is kind of, it's in that situation where you could get Mac Jones, but you probably don't get Trey Lance, you don't get Justin Fields, you don't get Zach Wilson, you definitely don't get Trevor Lawrence. If the Colts are super sold on one of those guys, then you go and trade up. However, I think Mac Jones could get the job done at number 21, or I said earlier in today's video, go out and try it for Sam Darnold. I don't think Carson Wentz is really an option because of that disgusting contract he has, but I don't know if you need to go up and trade from 21, because you'd have to trade up to around 7-6, maybe 7-6 or 8, and I just don't know if that's really worth it. Even if you're getting your quarterback of your future. It would be if you're getting your quarterback of your future, but you probably have to give up this year's first and next year's first, and I don't know if you do that for Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. Maybe if you really like one of those guys, you trade your 21st pick, a second rounder, a future second rounder, and a future first rounder to move up into those top 3 picks to go get one of those top quarterbacks, but I just don't know if the Colts will do that. I think there are some good options on the trade block or in free agency, just in the quarterback carousel market, where they could look into doing that. But definitely, let's look at see what they do during free agency and during trades before we start looking at the draft. But that's definitely something to keep your eye on. Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags will sign wide receiver Chris Godwin for agency. I don't think this will happen. Chris Godwin's definitely going to get a lot of money in free agency from other teams, but I think he's going to stay with the Bucs. He's going to take a pay cut, try and run it back with Brady and the Bucs. I think this is a no-brainer for Godwin. I don't think he'd go to Jacksonville, even though he could play with Trevor Lawrence if they take him number 1 overall. I just think that he's going to want to go try and win another Super Bowl, and the best chance for him to do that is probably in Tampa Bay. Next team is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans will add a total of 4 edge rushers through the free agency and the draft. I think this is smart. If the Titans do this, they know what they're doing, because the Titans, they have one of the most complete teams in the NFL when it comes to their offense, their defense. But when it comes to their defense, Their secondary it's manageable. Their linebackers are okay, but their defensive edge rushers are just so horrendous. I mean, they don't get sacks, they don't get pressure, they don't get hits on the quarterback. That's something that they really need. So the Titans investing in some edge rushers would be really smart for Tennessee. I think that's something that they need to do. Now let's go to the AFC West. So Denver Broncos re-signing Justin Simmons. I don't know if it happens this offseason, but they got to do this, okay? Justin Simmons, top 5 safety in the NFL, one of the best safeties in the league currently. It's a no-brainer. You got to go sign him. He's great against tight ends, great against running backs, great against receivers. He can do it all. He's hard-hitting. It's a no-brainer. You got to go re-sign Justin Simmons because he's the best player in the defense, and it's that simple. You sign your impact players to new contracts, and Justin Simmons is that. Now let's look at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs will find a way to re-sign wide receiver Sammy Watkins despite a tight salary cap situation. This is an interesting situation here because the Chiefs, obviously, they're going to have the 31st overall pick in this year's draft. I think Watkins is definitely a guy that could be a real impact player. He's been an impact player for the Chiefs for the past few years. If he wants somewhere in the $7 million mark, 5 to 7, maybe they get a deal done. I think he's definitely a guy that the Chiefs are going to want back. I just don't know if they're going to have the salary cap to stick with him. To make this video not last for 40 minutes, let's try and hurry this up. Derek Carr will not only remain a Raider, he will sign an extension with Las Vegas. There's been a lot of talk that a guy like Derek Carr is trying to get his way out of Las Vegas. The Raiders don't want him. Maybe they want Marcus Mariota. Maybe they want another guy. But Carr is, at best, a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. And in my opinion, you don't just go out and trade and get rid of a top 12 quarterback in the NFL that was playing like a top 5 quarterback maybe 3 seasons ago, maybe 4 seasons ago. I don't quite remember when that was. But, I mean, he played really well this year. I mean, one of the reasons why this Raiders team was in playoff contention for any point of the season was of Carr's ability to make plays, and I think Carr is he's a really special guy. He's a special talent. He just needs more guys around him. He's really developed that tight end in Darren Waller. But if you keep adding to wide receivers, offensive line, getting some defensive pieces to rush the quarterback, that Raiders team is a playoff team. No question about it whatsoever. And Carr is definitely at the center of that. I don't know how long that extension would be, maybe a 2 or 3 year extension, but this is definitely a situation to keep your eye on. For me, it's either he gets re-signed or he's on his way out the door kind of thing this offseason. But with that said, yeah, that's just something interesting to watch. The Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers will draft a new left tackle to make sure Justin Herbert is well protected and acquire a more reliable kicker this offseason. Absolutely to both of these. They need offensive line help. Justin Herbert was sacked 32 times last season, and it could have been easily 45 to 50 if the guy hadn't, been so good at escaping pressure. So absolutely left tackle is a must-have. Kicker too. Badgley was arguably the worst kicker in the NFL this year, missed a ton of kicks, so they're definitely going to need to go out and find a more reliable kicker. For the Chargers, both of these things are not bold. They need to happen. The Dallas Cowboys now. NFC East here. We're moving to the NFC teams now. Dak Prescott will not sign a contract extension. Are you kidding me? They're going to have to offer him the absolute haul. And I mean, this guy, he's got to sign the contract extension. I mean, he was fantastic for the Dallas Cowboys in the only few games that he played for this season. Obviously, he got injured, season ending injury. But nonetheless, I mean, Dak Prescott is a top 7 quarterback in the NFL, and I just don't think you can let him walk. Sure, the big injury is concerning, but do you guys have a better quarterback on the roster? I mean, Andy Dalton isn't better than Dak Prescott. Sure, he did some things. The defense was definitely a problem, but there's not a quarterback in the draft that you guys that the Cowboys can go out and probably get. Maybe at pick 10, maybe Trey Lance falls to you, maybe Justin Fields or Zach Wilson falls to you. But I just think that guy like Prescott, he's already a bona fide guy. There is no reason for him to not be offered the absolute max that he can. And with that said, he's gonna accept that, right? He's going to accept that. There is some talk with him in Washington, but that's a whole other story. I don't really want to get to that. But I think Prescott will definitely re-sign with the Cowboys. It'd be crazy if he didn't. New York Giants, they signed Hassan Reddick to fill a massive hole at edge rusher. I think this makes perfect sense here. Obviously, the Giants need some pass rushing. Hassan Reddick had like 12.5 sacks last year. Don't quote me on that, but it was definitely up there. He was really good for the Cardinals, and I think he's going to want a lot of money. The Giants are definitely going to need to pay him a lot. Somewhere in the region of 12 to 14 million is probably what he's going to go for per season. And Reddick, once again, I mean, he was fantastic last year. Really, really good for that Arizona Cardinals team. Was their best pass rusher. Really developed. Obviously, former first-round pick out of Temple. Wasn't great for the Cardinals in his first few seasons, but really developed into a special guy last year. And I think he'd be a perfect fit in New York. Definitely in the need of another edge rusher. The Philadelphia Eagles. This one I don't understand. They will draft a quarterback in the first round to compete with Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry. This makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. I know they have a high overall pick, but the quarterback position is something where you can add more fuel to the fire. Maybe if they trade away Carson Wentz for a lot of draft picks and maybe a first-round pick, maybe they do this. But I think Hurts showed enough last year. And even then, if they decide to stick with Carson Wentz, he's been a bona fide starter in the past, so I don't think adding another quarterback makes any sense. Hurts was really good for the Eagles. They need more receivers. They need more help on defense. I just don't. I think they've got good quarterbacks on the roster. Obviously, Wentz, there's a whole situation there, but I think Hurts showed enough to give him another year. I mean, this Eagles team is there's a theory that this Eagles team is like 2 players away from being a legit playoff team. I'm sorry, they're not. They're just not. Their receivers aren't good. Zach Ertz isn't what he used to be. He's probably going to be out the door this offseason. And with that said, I mean, the defense is good, but it's not great. They need another corner. Darius Slay was good, but they need another guy to pair across from him. Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox are getting older. The linebacker position is something that's a big need for the Eagles. So with that said, I think that getting a quarterback is not really going to solve anything, especially when Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts are 2 quarterbacks that are legit NFL options. The next team I want to look at is the Washington football team. Quarterback Alex Smith will want to keep playing, but he won't do it in Washington. I don't really know. I mean, he did enough last year to, really cement himself, but I think he's going to probably be the bridge quarterback for this Washington football team. So I think he should stay in Washington. I think it makes sense for him. I mean, like, the guy won Comeback Player of the Year. He's a good option, and he's a guy that a younger quarterback could learn from. Maybe you pick him in pick 18 or 19. I think it's 19 that Washington has, because 18 is where the Dolphins have. That's the last pick of the non-playoff team. So I think Alex Smith will stay in Washington. That's my thinking on that, but not necessarily. Obviously, he could end up leaving Washington. I just don't think this is a very interesting take. Like, I don't think there's much here. The next one I want to look at is the Chicago Bears, and letting wide receiver Allen Robinson walk in free agency. I don't think this is going to happen for a few things. So one, I do think Allen Robinson will leave the Bears. There's not really anything for him to stay there. I don't think their quarterback situation is great. Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, like the whole thing there, they're going to need a quarterback. Allen Robinson, I think, needs to leave. He needs to go find a team that really needs a receiver 1 to go make a playoff spot. And the Bears just aren't that team. Yeah, they made the playoffs last year, but barely, and I just don't think they should have. So I think Robinson won't be let go by the Bears. Like, I mean, the Bears are still they're going to give him a lot. They're going to give him 17, 18 million. That's my guess. Allen Robinson, really talented receiver, really, really good. Top 15 in the NFL, probably top 10. Definitely worth that kind of money. But I think he won't want to resign. He'll take less money to go somewhere else. I think that's probably what's going to happen with him. Detroit Lions, with Jared Goff on the roster, the Lions won't draft a quarterback. I don't think this is bold. I mean, I think everyone's like bashing Jared Goff for being a bad quarterback. I mean, the guy was injured for the latter part of last year. Sure, he didn't look great last year. But this guy is still a top 15, top 12 to 18 quarterback in the NFL. Either way you look at it, I think Goff still has it in the tank. I mean, yeah, he's not as good as Matthew Stafford, sure, but I don't think he's terrible. Like, he's not garbage. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of money left on that deal, and they're definitely probably going to want to get another first-round pick, maybe out of this trade. Maybe you trade a first-round. There's different things that the Lions could do with their first-round picks now that they have Goff on the team and the big salary cap. But I don't really think you go out especially with the salary that Goff is taking, and maybe get a quarterback. Maybe you go and take Trey Lance in the first round. Maybe you take Justin Fields. Like, I don't know. I just like Goff. I'm a believer in Goff, to be honest. I mean, this guy he's all he's done in his career is win, right? He hasn't won a Super Bowl, but I mean, he made it to a Super Bowl. He's won a lot of games, so he's a winner. I think that probably gets it done for the Lions. I don't think they need another quarterback on the roster. Like, I mean, maybe they look into one. I don't think they take one in the first round though. Yeah, I just think this makes sense here. The Lions won't draft a quarterback. I just think that makes sense. The Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers will skip the offseason workouts, assuming there are any. He doesn't need to go to the offseason workouts. I mean, the guy won MVP. Like, come on. This is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I don't care if he goes or doesn't go. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, he won MVP. Big deal. I think he should go because it's good for his teammates, good for leadership, things like that. But, I mean, I don't think there's much here to talk about. The Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings will be part of the quarterback carousel in free agency. Kirk Cousins, interesting. Coming into I think it might be his last year of his contract. I don't know. Actually, I don't know about that. I think it is. But no, I think they stick with Kirk Cousins. He's done enough to prove he's a top 12 to 13 quarterback in the NFL. And when you have that, and you've got a good running game, and you probably need some offensive line pieces, I don't think you go out and try and change your quarterback. I mean, Kirk Cousins has been able to do what Kirk Cousins does. I mean, this guy led them to the playoffs last year. I mean, led them to the second round of the playoffs last year. Obviously, they missed the playoffs this year because injuries, defense, they need to really invest in the defense side of the football. This offense is good enough to be one of the better ones in the NFL, top 15-ish, if they can get, maybe a tight end or some offensive line help. But defense is really what the Vikings need to focus on the season. So I don't think the Vikings will be part of the quarterback carousel in free agency. NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons will draft a quarterback with the first pick that they have at number 4. I don't think this will happen. Matt Ryan is still a good quarterback in the NFL, top 15. And I know I keep on saying, oh, this quarterback's top 15. Oh, this quarterback's top 12. Yeah, but these quarterbacks are top 12 and 15. So don't yell at me about that in the comment section down below. But with that said, I mean, the Falcons drafting a quarterback, I just don't see it. I think they've got bigger problems. That offense is going to be top 10 in the NFL with Julio, Calvin Ridley, and Matt Ryan. That's going to work. Defensively, though, there's big problems. And I think Patrick Surtain or even maybe a guy like Micah Parsons would be a better fit. So I don't think the Falcons going after a quarterback at number 4 really makes sense. Maybe, though, they do drop back to, like, pick 20 or something. Pick up an, trade idea here. They trade with the Colts, right? They move back to 21, okay? They get a future first-round pick, and they get a first-round pick this year. I think that could actually, you know what? I'm going to make a mock draft on that. As I'm making these videos, getting new video ideas. Love to hear it. Now, though, let's go to the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers will find a way to trade for Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. As I said, Texans would be stupid to trade for him. I think that the Panthers should try and trade for him. I mean, anytime, maybe like Bridgewater, 2 first-round picks, a future second and a third. Maybe that could get it done. But nonetheless, Watson's not leaving Houston. I'm sorry. I'm a Dolphins fan. Watson's not leaving Houston. New Orleans Saints now. Jameis Winston will lead the Saints starting quarterback job and go on to win his first playoff game. I actually believe this. I like this take, and this is the take I want to make in the offseason. You know how I make my bold takes, my bold prediction videos. This is definitely something I'm going to look into this offseason. If Winston stays with the Saints, I think will definitely win the starting quarterback job. I mean, this guy's talented. I mean, he threw 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. I know the 30 interceptions is definitely a problem, but when you have 30 touchdowns, you got Michael Thomas on the roster, Emmanuel Sanders, you're going to go get another receiver this offseason. We all know it. And the defense is as good as it's ever been down there in New Orleans. I think Winston, he's got the weapons, and he's got that talent on that team. Remember, I mean, 2 years ago with the Bucs, I mean, that defense is what, the defense was good. It wasn't great because the secondary wasn't that great, but I think that defense is not as good as the one that the Saints have currently. And the offense, although, I mean, you could probably go either way. It didn't have a run game, but it did have a better passing game. I just think James Winston would be able to push the ball down the field. I think this would work in New Orleans. And I think that, I don't know if they win their first playoff game, but I think they definitely make the playoffs. Tampa Bay Bucks, multiple high-priced Bucks players will restructure their existence. Absolutely. As I already said, absolutely. This Bucks team is going to go for another ring chaser. Okay, they're going to go and try and restructure their contracts, get Tom Brady going again, get the weapons, get the defense going. This Buccaneers team honestly should be Super Bowl favorites next year. They're gonna fix their contracts up to allow more guys to come, more talent to come in the building, and they're gonna play like the Patriots did with Tom Brady. I mean, when players wanted to go to New England, they took less money. That's what's going to happen with the Bucks. Teams and players on that team are going to restructure their contracts to allow more guys to come. It's just that simple. They want to win. They want to win now, and they've got the pieces to win now. So let's keep the team together. That's definitely what the Bucs are going to do. I think that's a no-brainer for them. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals will not re-sign cornerback Patrick Peterson. Yeah, I don't know. He's going to be 31 when the next season starts. He's going to want another big deal, and corners aren't really great when they exceed 31. Yeah, Patrick Peterson is one of the better corners in the NFL, but I think he's past his prime. He's definitely past his prime at this point. And although the Cardinals definitely need some defensive help, if Patrick Peterson wants a lot of money, this deal's not happening. I think the Cardinals should probably look at a corner in the NFL draft, maybe, if not on maybe some off-the-line help or maybe some help up front on the defense side of the football. But I don't think Patrick Peterson signing him to a 4-year big deal is going to really do anything. I mean, he's 31. He's only going to decline. It doesn't really make sense for the Cardinals. The Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, despite a lack of cap space and draft capital, will piece together the means to bring in a speedy receiver. Here's the thing. Who do they have on the roster right now? They've got Robert Woods, they've got Van Jefferson, Josh Reynolds, and Cooper Kupp. None of those guys are super fast. Maybe they go out and try and get a speedy receiver. I don't think it's a must-do thing. But I think it would definitely open up their offense. Maybe they try and trade maybe a third-round pick for a guy, or maybe sign someone in free agency. Obviously, they don't have a huge amount of cap space, but they can definitely clear some space. But maybe try and get someone cheaper, someone that can fill a need to stretch the field. Maybe John Ross. I think he might be a free agent. That could be an interesting thing for the Rams. He could definitely open the field up for them. But maybe, yeah, I think the Rams should definitely look into a speedy receiver. It's not necessary. Van Jefferson, Josh Reynolds, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, they're good. They're not fast, though. And that's a big thing with the Rams. I mean, they were missing that Brandon Cooks speed to really stretch that defense out. So that's something that the Rams should definitely look at in the offseason. Now, though, let's look at the 49ers. The 49ers will draft a quarterback sometime in the first 3 rounds to push and provide depth behind Jimmy Garroppolo. No, I disagree with that. Obviously, the guys that came in, Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard, did a really good job being those backups to push Jimmy G when Jimmy G was injured. I don't think the 49ers will need a quarterback in the draft. I think Jimmy G's the guy. Like, I mean, the guy made the Super Bowl. Just because he got injured and couldn't play really well and there was injuries all over the field doesn't mean he's done. Like, yeah, and the defense is going to be better next year. This 49ers team is going to be knocking on the playoffs, and Jimmy G is going to be the guy. I just don't think that, getting rid of Jimmy G is really an option. Or, I mean, it is an option. I just don't think it's the right move for the 49ers. I don't think it's the right idea. But nonetheless, I mean, it's definitely an option for them. I just don't think that it's the play for them at the end of the day. Now let's look at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks will either make Jamal Adams the NFL's highest paid safety or trade him. I think they're going to make him the NFL's highest paid safety, and I know that a lot of fans are going to be like, what the heck are they doing here? I mean, he is so bad in pass coverage, but this guy is a sack machine. He's a run machine. He's really good, and you pair him with a guy, those other players in that Seahawks secondary. He was the reason why the Seahawks defense was top 10 in the NFL in the last 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season. So I think Adams being signed to a big long-term extension is definitely something that's going to happen, especially because you gave up 2 first-round picks for him. So I think that Jamal Adams will definitely be, the highest paid safety at some point. Maybe not this offseason, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Don't worry about that. So with that said, that's pretty much going to wrap it up here. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see ya.